This is the Fantasy Football Podcast, where we take data and convert it into fantasy success. No bias, no hot takes, only victory. This is the Fantasy Alchemist Podcast, and now your host, Dustin Chandry. Welcome to the Fantasy Alchemist Podcast. I'm Dustin Chandry. You can find us on Twitter at FFAlchemistPod. I'm recording this early morning, September 6th, as an emergency podcast to discuss the injury to the best tight end in the game. That's Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. Of course, he left practice yesterday with a hyperextended knee. Reports appear that the knee and the ACL is intact. Reports this morning indicate that we are most likely dealing with a bone bruise, painful but not a long-term injury. I would almost certainly expect Kelce to miss Thursday night's game, the Week 1 game. And with a 10-day rest, I would guess it's better than a 50-50 chance he plays in Week 2, and I would think it's almost 100% certainty that he is back by Week 3 at the latest. So I want to discuss a few items of note related to this as we prepare for opening night with the Chiefs hosting the Lions. Now, in your average redraft home leagues, don't be afraid to go acquire Travis Kelce right now. Travis Kelce was the tight end 1 last year at 316 points. That's over 100 points more than what the tight end 2 scored last year, which was TJ Hawkinson. You see, Kelce averaged 18.5 fantasy points a game. Kelce could have missed 5 games last year and still finished as the tight end 1. Kelce's not going to miss more than 5 games with this injury. If you can offer a panicked owner a second-tier tight end like Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, Darren Waller straight up, that's a trade I would easily make right now. But you have to act fast, as the likelihood of that trade evaporates after Week 1. Now, if you're holding Kelce in a league or leagues like me, you most likely are looking for a waiver wire to fill in for Week 1 and possibly Week 2. I'll recommend a few, but keep in mind that there's no replicating Kelce, right? There's a reason you drafted him so high. But this is who I would be placing my dart throws on right now. Now, I don't like relying on rookie tight ends, but that's kind of where we're at. Lions rookie Sam Laporta is available in 70% of ESPN leagues, and Packers rookie Luke Musgrave is available in 90% of leagues. Both have strong athletic profiles. They've both cemented themselves as the tight end 1 on their teams to start the year. And I think both are on teams with question marks on who will be the second target earner outside of their primary wide receiver 1. The other option is Cowboys second-year tight end Jake Ferguson. Ferguson's a guy I have high exposure to in Dynasty. He had a strong analytic profile on a very small sample size last year. He's locked up the tight end 1 role to start the year for Dallas, and he performed well in the preseason. In fact, in the second preseason game, he started the game with 3 targets and caught all 3, which was very encouraging. I would rank them Ferguson, Laporta, Musgrave, but I think all are reasonable Week 1 fill-ins for Kelce. As for Kelce's backup, Noah Gray, I don't think he's anything more than a dynasty stash. Kelce's injury does not really change that for me. You see, there were 50 tight ends in the league last year that played at least 500 snaps. That includes Noah Gray. But he ranked in the bottom third of targets per route run and in the bottom half of yards per route run and average depth of target. Beyond that, his athletic profile via Player Profiler is subpar, scoring in the bottom third of all tight ends historically from an athletic profile standpoint. Of course, he's going to assume a different role with Kelce out, but there's not enough supporting data to warrant starting him, let alone even adding him to your redraft rosters at this point. I think the more intriguing item left for me is who is left to catch passes Thursday night in Week 1. I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the game with the best quarterback. Historically, they have been top 5 in pass attempts every single year that Mahomes has been the starting quarterback. Kelce is out. Tony will likely be on a snap count. That leaves Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, Sky Moore, the aforementioned Noah Gray, Justin Watson as your primary wide receivers and tight ends. And I honestly don't think you can start any of them Thursday night. The only player I am recommending you start Week 1 is running back Jerick McKinnon. From Week 13 on last season, McKinnon played more snaps than any other running back on the team, He was third on the team in targets with a 15% target share, a catch rate of almost 90%, a target per route run rate at nearly 30%. Oh, and he scored 8 touchdowns, 7 of which were receiving. He averaged over 20 points a game down the stretch. So in summary, don't panic with the Kelce news. If you don't have him, try and get him. And if you have him, don't sell him. And stay away from Kansas City pass catchers for Thursday night. That'll do it for this emergency pod. Make sure to hit subscribe, as I'll recommend players you shouldn't be afraid of starting in week 1 later this week. This is Dustin Chandry. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Alchemist Podcast. You can follow the pod on Twitter at FFAlchemistPod or email us at fantasyalchemistpodcast@gmail.com.